Hi everybody, my name is Kaylie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So tonight I'm going to be doing an anonymous story time. But before we get into that, I would like to give you guys an update on my TikTok situation. So I was unbanned for about 12 hours and then TikTok decided to ban me again. And every day it's the same thing as last time. They've been sending me multiple notifications saying that I am banned from this day to this day to this day to this day, without me doing anything wrong. Thankfully, my manager is on the situation. He is trying to get in contact with TikTok, find out why the heck this is happening to my account. So let's just hope that my TikTok is up and running soon. Anyways, let's get into this story time. By the way, if I am looking in this direction, it is because my mirror is over here and I would love to see what I am doing. One more thing, I do tell these story times in first person point of view. If you don't like that, there's the door. So a little background information. It was the summer before my freshman year of high school and my best friend and I had been hanging out all summer. Now, my best friend and I had been friends since we were in 7th grade, which isn't that long. Well, just a backstory on kind of me and her. Her family was very wealthy. Mine was not. We were really poor. It was just my mom and my sister and I. My dad had left us whenever we were younger, and her parents were still together, and she had always been a really good friend. Just like always there for me, very supportive of things that would go on in my home life. Anytime I needed her, she would be there for me. So like I said, my dad had left us, but like he would come home at random times and just like kind of start things with my family. So anytime that would go on at home, I would go and I would stay with her and her family until my mom got him out of the house. The one thing that both of us had in common was that our parents were kind of strict. Hers less than mine. My mother was very strict about who I hung out with, me hanging out with boys, of course. Her parents, they would let her hang out with boys, but it was more like, just like call us, check in, you know, we want to FaceTime with you. Well, 8th grade is whenever her and I started hanging out with boys, and this is whenever she started to become toxic. Now, I wasn't allowed to hang out with boys still, but of course me going over her house, boys were allowed over her house. She was also the friend that had the parties and stuff like that because she had a big house. You know, her parents had an attic just for her, like a hangout, I guess, but she would always have parties up there. And yes, we were in 8th grade at the time, but they weren't parties where there was alcohol and other stuff, at least not yet. Well, not only was she toxic, but she was kind of becoming like a pick-me girl. We all know what they are. We know who they are. She was definitely one of them. Anytime that she would throw one of these parties, I would get ready at her house. She would do my makeup as best as she could. And she would also help me pick out the best outfit. Yeah, and at the time I didn't know how to do makeup. Now personally, I never put that much work into my physical appearance. So whenever she would offer to do my makeup and my hair and help me pick out outfits, I was super excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like she looks so good. She's gonna make me look really good like she does. Yeah, that just was not the case and definitely not what she had in mind. Anytime that she would help me pick out my outfit, I was really appreciative until I started realizing that she would pick out the shittiest outfit, do my makeup absolutely terrible, so that way I wouldn't look good in front of the guys. That went on pretty much that whole 8th grade year. Now it is the summer of my freshman year, and she went on vacation for almost a month. And during that month, I started hanging out with one of my other friends. And her and I were getting ready for this party that one of our friends was throwing. And we got ready at my house. My mom, she was a little less strict at this point, thank God. And she goes into my closet and she's like, oh my God. She's like, why haven't you worn this to any of the other parties that we went to? And I'm like, well, we're gonna call my best friend Amy. I was like, well, Amy said that they looked like really bad and that I would embarrass myself if I wore that stuff. Now looking back on it, clearly not, because she would literally tell me that a shirt looked terrible on me, then put it on and tell her, oh, it looks better on me. Okay, sis. I see you out here. She was like, no, what are you talking about? She was like, I think she was telling you those things on purpose so that way she would look better than you. Now, me, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, no way. Like, you're out of your mind. She would never do that to me. Her and I have been best friends. So I was like, no, like, she wouldn't do that. And she was like, well, that's funny. She was like, because she would make fun of you to all of us about what you were wearing, how bad your makeup looked, and everything like that. So at this point, I'm still really not believing her. I still think that Amy's like some saint who came down and saved me from embarrassing myself. So after I went, got myself some new makeup, got myself some new clothes, I started taking care of myself more in a physical aspect. Well, when Amy came home from the Bahamas, she threw another party. She invited me over to get ready, of course. She's like, oh, I can do your makeup and do your hair. And I'm like, no, that's fine. I got it. After that, she gives me this really weird look. She's like, okay, well, it's probably not gonna look that good. You don't really know how to do makeup or do your own hair. Well, after I'm done doing my makeup and I do my hair and I pick out my own outfit, after she's done getting ready, she looks at me and she's like, no. She's like, you can't be serious with that outfit. And I'm like, I kind of am. She's like, I just feel so bad because I don't want you to get made fun of. You don't look good. So she pretty much just starts arguing with me at this point. And she just starts saying a lot of rude things. And I look at her and I'm like, why would you say those things? She's like, no, I'm not trying to be mean. She was like, you just don't look good. She was like, I want you to look good. I want you to find a boy that likes you. So after about 20 minutes of arguing with her, she finally gave up on trying to talk me into taking my makeup off and putting a different outfit on. Like, sis wanted me to take a whole shower. She was like, listen, like, we'll push off the party till later. So people start showing up, things are going fine until like the middle of the night. Her sister had just turned 21 and for these parties she would get alcohol from her sister. And of course I would drink because I would just sleep over her house and then the next day go home. And anytime she would throw these parties, she would get super drunk. Like, sis, for some reason, did not want to deal with life. So she's really drunk. I'm talking to this guy that I really like, that I have been Snapchatting, and she starts acting like a bitch. She starts bringing up things about how my family is poor and about how she took me on so many vacations, and every time that my crackhead dad comes back to my house, she has to open her house up and let me in. So of course I leave the conversation. I walk away from him and her because I tried defending myself, saying, well, you didn't have to do that. And she goes, well, it's not like you made me feel like I had a choice. You made yourself look like a charity case. So like I said, I walk away from the conversation and I just decided to call my mom that night. I hadn't been drinking. I wanted to go home. So my mom comes and picks me up. I don't answer her messages for a few days after that. And then she shows up at my house and my mom lets her in because I didn't tell my mom anything about what had went on because I did not want my mom to hate her. So she walks into my bedroom. I didn't know that my mom had let her in and I'm pretty much just like, what the hell are you doing at my house? She's like, well, I wanted to see if you were okay, like you haven't been answering my messages or anything. So she sits in my room while I ignore her for about an hour, and just to get her to leave, I finally tell her why I am so pissed off at her. So after pretty much I tell her what she did wrong, she starts playing the victim and the I don't know what you're talking about. She goes, OMG, you have to be lying. And I'm like, nope, you said all those things. She's like, well, I don't want you to get mad for me saying this, but I really feel like this is your fault. And I'm like, what do you mean this is my fault? She goes, it's your fault. Like, why would you let me drink that much in the first place? Like, you weren't even keeping an eye on me. Like, I would have kept an eye on you if you were drinking like I was. Like, it's really unfair that you're gonna sit here and blame me whenever you're the one in the wrong. Who lets their friend drink that much and then gets mad at them for saying something? Like, who lets their friend drink that much anyways? So, once again, she made me feel like I was the bad guy without knowing it. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, like, I really am a bad friend. Like, I shouldn't have let her get that drunk. If she's my best friend, it was my job to keep an eye on her. Like I said, pretty much just letting her guilt trip me. And I am a dumbass for thinking that it was my fault. But I did. So I'm like, you're right. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. Because she starts bringing up some serious crap. She's like, what if I was sexually assaulted by a guy? It would have been your fault. So I apologized to her and we move on. Well, this was right before school had started. I had been working all summer to save up for these pair of shoes that I wanted. And they were $1,000. I had saved up for them all by myself. And I was super excited to wear them to the party that she was throwing. And she had threw parties before this party that's coming up. And she would still act like an ass, but I just let it go. So a few hours before her party, we had went to the mall and she went and did her thing. I went and did mine and I bought those shoes. They were $1,000. Well, when we got back to her house and started getting ready, I put my shoes on right before the party started. And she looks at them and she goes, you really just copy my style, don't you? And I say to her, what are you talking about? Like, I've wanted these for a while. And she goes, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And then she goes, how did you even afford those? Did you steal them? And I kind of just brush off that question, don't really answer it. You know, I'm like, no. And I laugh about it. Well, that night, she like keeps stepping on the back of my shoes. That night, she decides to dig in worse than she ever did before. So I'm standing with a group of our friends and there are a few guys there that like we've never met before. One of our friends asked if they could bring them. We said, yeah, of course. So I'm standing there and I'm exchanging Snapchats with these guys and she comes over to me and she didn't drink that much because I was keeping an eye on her like I was told to. So we're standing there and she's like, so what, did you like spend all your mom's rent money on those shoes? And I'm just like, there was dead silence. Literally all you could hear was the fucking music in the back. And I'm like, no, I bought them myself. And she's like, oh yeah, that's right. She was like, that's why you weren't able to make it to the past few parties because you were working at McDonald's to buy those shoes. And I was like, yup, yeah, you're right. Like I was, like I told you that. Like, so it gets really awkward and then thankfully one of my girlfriends changes the subject. And then she decides to bring something else up. She goes, it's funny you can afford to buy that whenever you couldn't afford a plane ticket to come to the Bahamas with me this year. And at this point, nobody really knows what to say because like nobody wants to be kicked out of her party. But at the same time, it's like everybody was waiting for me to stick up for myself. And I was not confrontational at all. So I hated whenever people fought. I hated whenever people tried to start stuff with me. She goes, Gia, please tell her that that outfit does not look good. I tried telling her before the party started, but like it really just seems like she's trying to take my style. Like, Gia, isn't she taking my style? Isn't that something that I would totally wear? I was wearing a black crop top with some low-waisted jeans. But yeah, I stole her style. And Gia just stands there and laughs because, again, it's hella awkward. So at this point, Gia's like, I'm gonna go get a drink. The boys follow her. Everybody else follows her. And I'm standing there and I'm asking her, I'm like, why are you being a bitch? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you literally just brought up the fact that I was poor in front of everybody. You also brought up the fact that I look like a whore. And she was like, OMG, like I was literally joking, babe. Yeah, she said babe. And then she was like, oh, like, are you embarrassed about that? And I'm like, well, it's definitely not something that I want everybody knowing. And she goes, OMG, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't think that you were embarrassed about your family or where you came from. Yeah, she did that. And I was like, I'm really not. I was like, but that's not something that you tell somebody you don't even know. And she was like, I'm sorry. Like, I won't bring it up again. Like, you should have told that to me. So once again, I forgive her and we move on. Well, earlier she yelled at me for not letting her have anything else to drink, so I let her start drinking again, and she got really drunk and she came up to me and she was like, she started again, except this time it wasn't around anybody, it was just to me. She was like, why do you like copy everything that I do? And I'm like, I don't. What the hell are you talking about? And she goes, well, it's just like with the shoes, like, I had saw those a week ago online and I wanted them. And I was like, okay, you never told me that you wanted them. Like, what's the problem? And she's like, I just think that, like, that's, like, copying me and you need to return them. Well, I said no. She was like, then I'm gonna throw up on them. Later, she tells me that she needs to throw up. So I take her over to the trash can that she had. And I was like, okay, you can throw up in here. Tell me why this bitch takes her head out of the trash can when she's about to throw up and throws up all over my brand new $1,000 shoes. So at this point, I'm sitting there and I'm debating whether I should stab her or not. She looks at my shoes and she goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She was like, hopefully working at your job you can afford another pair. Oh sis. So you're probably wondering what the hell I did after that. After that, I punched her in the face. I punched her in the face, and at this point everybody's just looking. And after I punch her in the face, like, she's on the ground, like, she's like crying. She's like, OMG, like, you just hit me, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, she was like, over $1,000 pair of shoes. She was like, that's not even that much money. She was like, you could literally save up for those working at McDonald's in like 5 months. After she said that, I was just gonna leave it at that. I was just gonna punch her in the face, you know, we would talk about it the morning after, and you know, I would tell her parents and they were gonna buy me a new pair of shoes. So what did I do after that? She is sitting on the floor and she's making all these comments, and I decide that I am going to tip the trash can, which 5 other kids were puking in that night. I tipped over the trash can onto her. It literally went all over her outfit. It was like on her chin. It was fucking gross. So fucking gross. Like, the one kid was literally sitting over that trash can for probably an hour and a half, letting it all out. So then she starts crying and saying that I needed to leave her party because I was a psycho bitch who was also poor. So, you know, she's going on about this while I'm about to walk out of the door. She should have just shut her mouth. So what do? I go back over there and I push her right back down into the puke. Pretty much after that, we didn't talk for a while. It was like maybe 2 weeks passed, and I think she had got the message whenever I pretty much was like, not texting her or anything like that, that I didn't give a fuck if we became friends or not again. So she showed up at my house like a month later, and she showed up with a brand new pair of shoes for me, and she's apologizing, saying that she was jealous that I was doing my makeup better than she did hers, dressing better than she did, and stuff like that, and that more boys liked me instead of her. So I forgave her, and ever since then we have never had a problem again, and that was about 3 years ago. So all she needed pretty much was her ass beat, and now we're best friends again. And we are way better than we ever were before. All right, everybody, so that is the end of this story time. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel and you like these story time, click that subscribe button because I'm doing them every week. Also, if you want to see when I post a new video, click that bell. And if you would like me to do your anonymous story time, DM me on Instagram. And if you guys want to keep up with me on any of my other social medias, they are linked down below. And I'm going to go and take this makeup off now. So I love you guys, and I will see you the next time.